Is your D&D campaign on pause for the summer? Are you dreaming of dragons but the heat of summer is keeping you from wearing your best adventuring clothes? Then come, oh fellow traveler, and refresh yourself with a tall drink of Swedish art. Today I want to share 3 artists that you should absolutely follow according to the fantasy sub-aesthetic of your choice. We're going to cover Knightcore, Fairycore, and Goblincore. I personally love all of these aesthetics. I'm so happy that fantasy as the mother of these genres is having such a moment. And if you don't know me yet, hi, my name is Marianne. I'm a self-taught artist and I love all things fantasy, witchcraft, so if you like art and fantasy, then I think you'll like this video. Artist number 1, Knightcore with Johan Egerkrans. Knightcore is an aesthetic inspired by medieval knights, reinterpreted through the lens of myth and high fantasy stories. This aesthetic often takes inspiration from old paintings, so you will find dramatic landscapes, castles, or ruins, and soft lighting as a backdrop for a character in armor. You may have seen some of Johan Egerkrans' work in bookshops, actually. He's published several illustrated books, and honestly, I want all of them. There's Norse gods, dragons, the undead, and most interestingly for me, Vaesen, which is all about spirits and monsters from Scandinavian folklore. Here are some things I love about Johan's work. The stylization. It's pretty angular and sharp. It reminds me of, you know that scene, the Tale of the Three Brothers scene from Harry Potter? It's angular, it's slightly elongated, and it feels a little bit too stretched to be real, but somehow still realistic enough in the proportions. Another thing I love is the colors, and specifically the contrast. I'd say that he works with a relatively muted palette most of the time, but then he brings in these gorgeous accents with a bright red or bright highlight, and that contrast makes the whole image feel magical. Why this works well for Knightcore? Well, dramatic compositions feel like these images are taking place at a dramatic moment in the story. It's a pretty dark atmosphere which feels very moody and very adventurous, like you could absolutely don an armor to take part in his illustrations. Artist number 2, Fairycore with Petra Brandström. Fairycore is an aesthetic inspired by fairies. It focuses on picture-perfect, pretty things. Fairycore typically involves things like soft pastels, butterflies, flowers, and fashion elements from the early 2000s. This artist is for you if you're a gamer, a role player, a dungeon crawler. I came across Petra's work in Göteborg at this amazing fantasy and sci-fi bookstore. I found some of her personal work she would sell, these really pretty, soft-looking fantasy pieces. When I researched her work a bit more, I found that she also worked on these gorgeous Skyrim-inspired paintings, and she illustrated a Swedish RPG called Eon. Here are some things I love about Petra's work. It's so painterly. Where Johan's work was really defined, she uses very soft brush strokes, she hints at shapes with soft gradients, it feels creamy and dreamy. I also love the fact that she shares her sketches and practice drawing on her Instagram. It's really nice to see finished work, but it's also very cool to see that there's a lot of background work and practice work to get to her finished pieces. Making paintings as beautiful as her final works feel completely out of reach to me, but seeing some of the steps she takes before getting to a final piece, that's super encouraging. This is probably my favorite painting of hers. It really tells a story, it's super adorable, and I feel like I'm getting so much inspiration for a new D&D character just off of one image. It's lovely. Why this works well for Fairycore? Well, she makes a lot of paintings of animals, often combining 2 animals into a new fantasy creature, which is super fantasy. And I will also say it reminds me of a lot of D&D official paintings, very painterly, very magical looking. Artist number 3, Goblincore with Rolf Lidberg. Goblincore is an aesthetic based on appreciating parts of nature that are typically regarded as less desirable or pretty. Think frogs, snails, moss, mud, mushrooms. Goblincore celebrates the scrappier parts of nature. Rolf Lidberg was an artist and a botanist best known for his paintings of trolls. His trolls were living their best and most wholesome riverside life, berry picking, fishing, hanging out in their beautiful surroundings. Fun fact, Lidberg was known for looking like his trolls. He had a hunchback and a big beard, and this is just a super endearing fact. His paintings are very soft. I assume they were mostly made with watercolor. There's a naive element to them and an idealization of nature as peaceful and beautiful and quiet. But mostly I wanted to mention him because he was a big deal in Sweden, and it's not every day that you encounter troll art to begin with, especially when it paints the trolls as sweet creatures. Why this works well for Goblincore? Well, goblins, trolls, it's kind of the same thing. I think Lidberg. I think Rolf Lidberg takes a creature that is generally regarded as ugly and malevolent and turns it into something sweet and adorable. Which artist was your favorite? Which aesthetic feels more like you? Please share your favorite fantasy artists in the comments as well, so we can all find even more talented people to gush over. I swear, it makes me so happy. And if all this gorgeous art is making you want to work on your own art this summer, but in a way that feels nice and restorative rather than super stressful, then you should check out my devious 2-step plan to have a super artsy summer. Bye!